The boy walks up the stairs. He thinks that he just wanted to be happy. He stops in front of a door and reflects that he dreamed of laughing with his friends and falling in love. He opens the door and heads towards the roof. He tells himself that he wanted to experience a completely ordinary school life. He stands on the roof in the pouring rain. He puts his hand to his forehead and thinks that this is everything he has ever wanted. He remembers that on Monday he was beaten up by a group. He recalls that on Tuesday they dumped toilet water on him, and on Wednesday his nude photos were spread online. He thinks about how he planned his own suicide on Thursday. Standing in the heavy rain, he considers what is happening today. He stands near the edge of the roof in the rain. He thinks that if he jumps from this height, he is guaranteed to die. He fears he won't survive a fall into the bushes. Looking at his feet, he reassures himself that everything will be all right. He leans against the fence and repeats to himself that he just needs to aim for the ground. Suddenly, a young girl behind him notices him. She points out that someone is there. The boy turns around quickly, surprised that there were still students left. He looks at the girl and anxiously wonders what he should do. Suddenly, the girl turns away to leave, startling him. He shouts for her to wait, terrified that she is going to call someone. The girl spins around cheerfully and presents a black bird to him. The boy is stunned. She holds the bird up close and tells him to look. He reacts with confusion. She smiles while holding the dead bird and explains that it is a crow that was laying dead over there. She looks at him and asks if he wants to die. She smiles widely with a blush on her face while holding the dead bird. She asks him that if he wants to die, why not give his life to her instead? The boy asks her what she means. She looks down at the bird and says that dying is such a waste. She smiles brightly and tells him that there is so much fun stuff he can do while he is still alive. The boy shouts back that she does not know anything about him. He tells her not to act like she knows what is best. He shouts at her and asks if she came here to make fun of him. She replies that of course she did not. She begins to tell her what she wants. She leans against the fence and tells her that she wants to put his life to good use. He asks her, perplexed, if she's talking about his life, and she cheerfully confirms it. She holds up the bird and asks him what he thinks when he looks at the crow. He looks bewildered and asks what she means. She asks him if he thinks the bird is cute. The boy looks at the dead crow with a disgusted expression. He replies that he does not think so at all. She agrees with him. Suddenly, she drops the bird and says that because it is already dead, it is nothing but a smelly, rotting lump of trash. The boy quietly repeats the word trash. He remembers painful insults where people called him gross, said he was in the way, and told him to die. He tells the girl that the bird is in a better place than him. He explains that the crow only became trash after dying. He sadly admits that he is a piece of trash even while he is alive. The girl looks at him with an unsettling smile and asks if that is why he wants to die. He stands behind the fence and quietly admits that she is right. Suddenly, he becomes frustrated that she is lecturing him. He angrily asks her what her deal is anyway. The girl explains that she was not trying to stop him. The boy looks confused by her statement. She smiles and admits that she does not know anything about him. However, she adds that she can tell he has a miserable life. She points her finger at him through the fence and demands that he tell her something. She frames him with her fingers and asks if he is fine with being trash for the rest of his life. The boy angrily shouts back that he is not fine with it at all. He clenches his fist tight and shouts that even he wants to make friends and lead a normal life. He adds that even if a girlfriend is out of the picture for him, he still wants to make the best out of his teenage years. The girl grips the fence with her face in shadow. She says that she sees. She leans against the fence with a wide smile and declares that she will grant him that life. The boy looks at her in shock and stammers in confusion. She climbs up the fence and jumps over to his side. The boy is surprised and asks what is happening. Her feet land on the ground next to him. She tells him that if he wants fulfilling high school years, he must give her control over his life. She points her finger at his chest as she makes this demand. She stands close to him and tells him to become her puppet. Then he will be happy. She loosens her tie and reminds him that he wanted a girlfriend. She suggests that if he becomes her puppet, she opens her shirt slightly and teases that she wouldn't mind letting him cop a feel. The boy panics and covers his eyes with his hands, shouting in surprise. The girl tightened her tie and asked him playfully if he thought it was a bad deal. The boy covered his face with his hand, looking disconcerted and flustered. She leaned towards him with a mischievous look and asked if he didn't want to. The boy blushed deeply and stammered that he didn't. He looked away nervously, his heart pounding. The girl stood motionless for a moment in the rain, watching him. Suddenly, she jerked at his tie. The boy let out a muffled sound, his voice jerking forward with the force of the movement. The girl suddenly grabs the boy by his tie and pulls him with her as she leans backward off the edge of the roof. As she falls back, she smiles and says that they should do this. As they fall through the air, she holds his hands and smiles wildly. She tells him that if they both live, he has to become her puppet. As they plummet through the air, the boy wonders if this is real. He curses in despair. The girl embraces him tightly as they fall. He thinks that he is actually going to die. He remembers how the bullies stand over him, laughing hysterically. One of them mocks him for vomiting on himself, while another recoils in disgust. The ringleader sneers while holding his phone and remarks on how gross it is. He tells the boy to clean up the mess he made. He stomps on the back of the boy's head, forcing him down. He orders him to clean it up with his mouth. Pinned to the floor, the boy screams a curse in his mind, consumed by rage and humiliation. As he falls upside down, he wonders why this is happening to him. He remembers a bully laughing and taking a picture of him. The bully called him trash and told him to say cheese. He grits his teeth in anger and thinks that he hopes they all... He screams in his mind for them to rot in hell as they crash into the bushes below. The boy grimaces in the darkness of the bushes, groaning aloud in sudden pain as he recovers from the impact. He manages to sit up amidst the crushed foliage, clutching his throbbing arm while the girl lies prone beside him. He lets out another pained grunt. Sweat runs down his face as he pants for breath. He holds his injured limb tightly, thinking with dread that he might have broken his arm. Suddenly, the girl lying next to him begins to laugh weakly. She sits up abruptly with a cheerful smile on her face. She remarks that the fall did not hurt nearly enough to kill them. Suddenly, she grabs the boy, causing him to wince and cry out in pain as she yanks him upward. She pulls him to his feet, but immediately dips him backward, holding him in a dramatic embrace. As she supports him, she declares that from now on, he is her puppet. She cheerfully drags him along the pavement, skipping as she suggests that they should get along. The boy cries out in pain as he is forced to follow her. She yanks his arm roughly and loudly reminds him that he is her puppet, causing him to grunt in distress. She smiles with a flushed expression and tells him that she will pull his strings. The boy winces again in the background. He groans while sweating profusely as she concludes that he must dance for her. The girl casually explains the situation to him. She suggests that he should think of it like being a remote-controlled car. The boy looks at her with fear and confusion. He stammers and asks her why she is doing this. She smiles softly to herself and replies that the reason is simple. Standing in the bright sunlight with a cheerful smile, she reveals that she is tired of her own life. The boy stands frozen, staring at her with a look of shock and confusion as sweat runs down his face. She smiles widely with a flush on her cheeks and continues to explain her plan. She says that she is going to control someone else. Her expression becomes intense as she declares that she will create the perfect life. She kneels on the ground in front of him and clasps his hand tightly with both of hers. She looks him in the eye and swears that she will lead him to happiness. She tells him that in return, he must be her puppet. The boy looks at her with a desperate expression and asks if he can really be happy. As the girl watches him silently, he declares that if it is possible, he doesn't care if he becomes a puppet or whatever else is required. He looks forward with a flushed face and shouts that he just wants to be happy. The girl smiles gently by the school building and reassures him that, of course, he can find happiness. She leans in close, lifting his chin with her hand, and tells him that his first order of business for a happy life is about to begin. With her face inches from his and a mischievous blush on her cheeks, she commands him to close his eyes. The boy nervously agrees and shuts his eyes tight, waiting for what comes next. She leans in and presses her lips against his. The boy's eyes fly open in shock, and his face flushes red as he receives the sudden kiss. She opens her eyes, revealing a strange cross-shaped symbol in her pupil. She smiles at him with a satisfied expression, leaving the boy staring at her in stunned silence. The boy covers his mouth in shock, blushing furiously as he stammers. He demands to know what she is and struggles to ask if she just kissed him. The girl smiles mischievously and remarks on the nature of kisses. She stands with a pleased expression, giggling behind her hand. She explains that kisses make the body secrete oxytocin, the happiness hormone, leaving him in a euphoric state. The girl smiles warmly and states that she demands all of her puppets to be happy. She asks him if a story with a happy ending is always better. The boy stares at her blankly as she declares that this is why he will be happy. She holds his hand as he kneels on the pavement, explaining that to achieve this happiness, he must obey her orders. Her expression suddenly darkens as she reaches out towards him, warning him that she doesn't need a disobedient puppet, threatening that if he ever turns on her, she might just break him. The girl announces that she is ready to give him his next order. She smiles broadly and demands that he tell her one of his wishes. She looks up at him with a cheerful expression and asks him to imagine a scenario where a wish-granting genie appears to help him lead a happy life. She asks what he would wish for in that situation. The boy looks down with a thoughtful and slightly confused expression. He quietly questions the concept of his own wishes. The boy looks down with sweat running down his face. He hesitates, starting to say that if he could ask for anything. He suddenly clutches his arm tightly and looks up with an intense expression of anger and pain. He shouts that he wants to get revenge on every single person who bullied him. The girl smiles calmly in response. She tells him that it's a great idea. The boy stares with wide, trembling eyes while breathing heavily. The girl tells him that he did well. She reaches out and gently pats the top of his head. She raises her hand high in the air with a confident, sinister smile. She declares that she shall grant that wish of his. The scene shifts to the exterior of an apartment complex at night, zooming in on a dark door along the walkway. Inside, the apartment appears neglected, with dirty dishes piled high in the sink and bags of trash sitting on the floor. Empty cans clutter the dining table in the silent room. The boy lies awake in his bed, staring silently at the ceiling. His injured arm is now heavily bandaged as he rests in the quiet darkness. The boy lies awake in bed, staring listlessly. He thinks about the girl, calling her a weirdo. He recalls the image of her smiling face as she promised to grant his wish. He lifts his bandaged arm and stares at it. He questions himself, wondering why he couldn't have just died. Looking at his injured hand, he feels hopeless and tells himself that nothing is going to change. He covers his eyes with his bandaged arm and reflects that, looking back, nothing has gone well since his first day of school. A bitter smile forms on his face as he thinks about the reason for his torment. He tells himself that he cannot believe he got bullied over something so dumb. Lying alone in his room, surrounded by bookshelves, he sighs. He concludes with resignation that he is living a worthless life. The boy lies on his pillow with a melancholy expression. He quietly begins a thought, saying, "If only." The scene shifts to the quiet city streets outside. He finishes his thought by wishing that tomorrow never came. The classroom is filled with the murmurs of students chatting in groups as the school day begins. The boy freezes, his eyes wide and trembling with dread as he stares at what is in front of him. He looks down at his desk, which is completely covered in chaotic, hateful scribbles, calling him trash, telling him to die, and demanding that he go away. As he stands motionless before the vandalized desk, a classmate behind him complains aloud, expressing disappointment that he actually came to school again. A group of 3 boys approaches his desk with a malicious smile. The leader calls out to him with an insult, claiming that his presence is making the whole classroom smell bad. The boy turns to look at them with a cold, silent stare, his injured arm supported by a sling. The bully notices the injury and feigns surprise, asking if he broke his arm. He mocks the boy, guessing that he must have tripped and hurt himself. Suddenly, he announces that he has an idea and drops a black marker into the boy's open pencil case. The bully smiles broadly while holding the marker and suggests that he should write some well wishes on the cast. He grabs the boy's bandaged hand roughly and muses aloud about what he should write. The boy reacts with shock and suddenly shouts for him to stop, pulling away. The bully freezes in place, staring blankly with a surprised expression. He scratches the back of his head and sighs, dismissively muttering that he does not care anymore. The bully walks past him with a scowl, calling him a party pooper and telling him to just go to his seat. The boy watches him leave, looking confused by the sudden change in attitude. As he stands there, he hears classmates whispering and wondering what the bully's deal is. Suddenly, the bully calls out to everyone. He shouts enthusiastically that he wants to show them something cool. The boy turns away and mutters an insult under his breath. Suddenly, the sound of running footsteps interrupts his thoughts. The boy turns his head in surprise, thinking that the bully always does whatever he wants. Without warning, the bully leaps into the air and delivers a powerful flying kick to the back of the boy's head. The classmates in the background watch in stunned silence, some covering their mouths in shock. The force of the blow sends the boy crashing violently into the desks and chairs, sending furniture flying as he collapses to the floor. The bully laughs loudly, boasting that he landed a clean drop kick. He turns to the group and asks if someone recorded the attack. His friend eagerly confirms that he captured it on video. The friend laughs while holding his phone and tells Raya that he is crazy. Raya casually accepts the comment. Suddenly, the boy on the floor begins to stand up, silently. Raya looks at him with a grin, surprised that he's back up on his feet already. The bully grabs the boy by the collar and announces that it's time for round 2. He clenches his fist and excitedly declares that he will use his fist this time. The boy flinches and closes his eyes tight, bracing himself for the impact. Suddenly, the classroom door slides open as someone steps inside. The girl enters with a bright smile and cheerfully wishes everyone a good morning. The girl stands in the doorway with a wide, flushed smile, cheerfully asks the group what they are up to. Behind her, a panicked teacher tries to hold her back, warning that now is not a good time. The bully pauses his attack, still holding the boy's collar, and looks over his shoulder in confusion. The other students in the room begin to whisper among themselves. The boy stares at the new arrival in shock. He realizes immediately that it's the girl from yesterday. The bully blushes and smiles at the newcomer, completely forgetting his previous aggression. He eagerly asks her which class she is from. He mutters to himself that she is cute, while the boy watches the interaction with a stunned expression. The nervous teacher steps in to explain the situation. She stammers that the girl is actually joining their class as a transfer student. The boy stands frozen with his mouth open, unable to process the news that she is transferring here. Suddenly, the girl waves enthusiastically in his direction, causing him to flinch in surprise. The bully leans in close to the teacher, blushing with excitement, and demands to know why she didn't tell them about a transfer student. The teacher flinches and quietly mutters that she did inform them at yesterday's assembly. He laughs off his mistake, admitting that he was not listening. Turning his attention back to the girl, he asks for her name. She stands at the front of the room and cheerfully introduces herself as Tomata Kubaru. She writes her name, Tomata Kubaru, in large characters on the chalkboard behind her, turning back to the class with a beaming smile and flushed cheeks, cheerfully confirms that this is her name. She walks over to the bully's desk and tells him that it's nice to meet you. The bully stares up at her, blushing and completely captivated, simply muttering a stunned word of amazement in response. He holds up his phone with a flushed face and tells her that even her name is cute, and eagerly asks for her contact ID. She cheerfully agrees and pulls out her phone. She shows him her QR code. He scans it and happily announces that she is now in his friend list. He smiles warmly and tells her to call him Raya. She looks at him with a strange symbol in her eyes and a flushed face. She suggests that they should get along. The girl suddenly turns away from the bully and addresses the boy directly, asking the student with the cast to identify himself. The boy points to himself with a bewildered expression and asks if she is talking to him. She cheerfully confirms that she is and walks over to join him. In the foreground, the bully watches her walk away with a look of displeasure and suspicion on his face. She stands close to him, placing a hand near his chest, and smiles warmly. She mentions that she missed the chance to ask him yesterday. The boy blushes deeply, looking flustered and anxious by her closeness. She beams at him with a gentle, radiant smile, waiting for his response.